Minnesota State Public School for Dependent and Neglected Children. It's actually kind of a sad story. Post-Civil War public institution played an important role in the development of child welfare policies. In operation from 1886 until 1945, the school was considered a state-of-the-art facility. It was created to mitigate poor conditions of almshouses and limit children's exposure to criminal, mentally ill, and physically ill adults.
Unfortunately, they did all they could for little Rose. She wasn't showing any improvement, so they sent her back here, and the poor little thing died about 6 months later, I think. In
I'm surprised they sent her back here.
Rose had scoliosis.
Well, but where? I mean, Mr. Larson had died of cancer on the neck. Mrs. Larson died of tuberculosis.
Okay.
And so the stepfather, her new husband, of course, he married Mrs. Larson. He didn't want the kids. So, took care of that and put him in the state school. It's so sad, but you've got alcoholism, you've got drug addiction, you've got incarceration, you've got asylum. I've gotten involved with a lot of asylums then. A wife could be committed just if the husband thought she was crazy. And something as stupid as menstrual irregularities, you could be put in an asylum.
There's a story here of this little girl. They received her at the age of 10 months. She was born at the state's prison. Her mother was a murderess, serving a life sentence. And then she was selected by a minister's family who legally adopted her. Ended up living a life being loved. And the story of this little girl is that she was suffering from starvation when she was brought to the school, and her brutal grandparents who had her in their possession seemed willing to starve her to death. Awful reports of their abuse of the child are told, which, without the reliable authority from which they come, would seem incredible. Her child mother, who is but 15 years old, heard of the presence in town where she was working of one of our agents and besought her to rescue the baby, which was promptly done by the legal process. Although the child was 2.5 years old when she came to the school, she was not larger than a child should be at the age of 2 months and quite as helpless, weighing only 12.5 pounds. Nourishment was prescribed for her by the physician, and her famished appearance gradually changed and strength came until at the end of 6 months, she was the plump, beautiful baby above represented. Poor little girl. There's a slingshot. Favorite pastime of mischievous boys was carving their name in the bricks. Another posed picture of the playground. girls only possessions, it says. Darning cotton. Children's birthdays were never celebrated. Many children never even knew their birth date.
Life.
This is the head
And
nurse.
after their time in the cottage, they would be assigned to a cottage similar to Cottage 11 here, and those were based on boys or girls, and then their ages. So they were in with a similar age group in each cottage.
I'm sorry for interrupting, but was the kerosene hair wash fairly common in the day? Okay.
When they first
Because
arrived.
There was a separate
For
nursery
lice.
for the babies, and I loved visiting the babies. They were very sweet. When children got sick, they would be brought to the hospital building here, and they could have anything from a common cold to cuts and bruises, and they would spend a day or two with me in the hospital, even for minor things. And that was the most personal attention that children ever received when they were here at the orphanage.
Did you have any staff working for you? Or were you the sole medical provider?
I was primarily the sole medical provider. There were 2 female doctors here in 1900, but there was not a staff doctor on site. If the doctor had to come in, they would have to come in from Owatonna, which Owatonna proper was quite a distance up here to the campus at the time.
So you were on site?
I was on site, yeah. So any children that got sick over the winter would have their tonsils removed in the spring. We would line them up, and the whole campus would smell like ether because it would be one procedure after the other all day, and that was what we thought was the best course of action to make sure kids were staying healthy. We did treat some more serious conditions like broken arms. Dear Vivian, I found her in the kitchen one day doing her chores, her work that she was assigned, and she was in tears, grabbing her stomach, and we determined that she needed to have her appendix removed. And once she'd had that operation and recovered, we were able to go together to see The Wizard of Oz at the theater.
Oh,
Wonderful.
yeah.
And sometimes, despite our best efforts, we couldn't save all of the children that arrived here. Many came malnourished and neglected and just didn't have care before they arrived. We have 198 children buried in our cemetery. We hope you'll visit. Our caretaker is down there, and he has wonderful stories about some of the children that are buried there. I retired when I was 68 years old and moved to Maryland to be with some extended family, and died when I was 70.
Oh,
The hospital building was for a time used by Steele County as a treatment facility and is currently empty and for sale. It's very sad. So if you
so this is Cottage 11. This is where the boys were, where the boys lived. So this would have been like the central area, probably. Typical bedroom. Oh, a 3-bedroom. So there's room for 3 in this one. Yeah. Oh, the little tiny clothes. Wow. Sewing room. Responsibility of the matron and her assistants to keep the children clothing in good repair. And they did it while the kids were in school.
That's a urinal there.
Goes down to the basement.
Now this is how you get 4 in a room.
4 in a room.
Yeah, definitely.
This bathroom. Scrubbing floors was a constant job on hands and knees. Urinals, okay. And the flushes up there. Toilets. And the push button lights. Matron's living quarters. Oh, there's two doors. How'd you get in here? Oh, yeah. Cottage 11 audio tour station. So this is another one of the audio tours that you can listen to. Oh, I like that lamp. Wow. Is it a lamp? It's a lamp now. I don't know if that's what it started out to be. In the matron's quarters. Her own bathroom.
Because we were looking like in the end.
Right.
That's where the matrons
Telephone. Pocket ledger.
It goes through to here.
1939.
This is her bed.
So the Fleshman family, they had 6 children. His oldest daughter was feeble-minded, which again, I'm not sure if that's just low IQ, if it's mental retardation, mental handicap, or what. But they had the home for the feeble-minded in Faribault up there. So I still haven't found a definitive answer for that. But so she was feeble-minded, a young man in their community got her pregnant. Well, that had to be an embarrassment back then, mortification. Second daughter is in school, the teacher falls in love with her, says, I want to run off with you and get married. She says, no, I'm too young, I don't want to do that. Well, it wasn't good enough for him. He comes to their house, shoots and kills her, turns the gun on himself, kills himself.
Oh.
So then
This is the man who had impregnated her?
No, this is the second daughter's teacher.
Oh, okay.
So the man that impregnated her had run off. So then his wife dies. So he has to get a housekeeper. He gets the housekeeper, comes home, the house is wiped out with everything valuable, and she's gone. So he's saying, oh my God. A month later, the house burns to the ground. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
Oh my gosh.
So he had no choice but to put the children in the state school.
Wow.
So a couple months after being here, poor little Hiram dies, and they can't even get his name right.
Yeah.
Hiram, and it's Hiram. Nelson Williams. He was. There were 6 children in that family, including an older daughter, Blanche. And the daughter and the older brother were playing, and the older son got his dad's Civil War shotgun out, thinking it was unloaded. Well, it wasn't. And he put it to her head and killed her instantly.
Oh.
He was on the ground. The parents walk in. They thought they were both dead. As the thrust knocked him out. He's inconsolable. He's just screaming. And so they, the mother then died, which so often happens, and the children ended up here. So, like I say, every story, every child here has a story, and one's worse than the one before, because there's one that's called Nurse's Baby here. Nobody knows anything. There's nothing, no record. I wonder, did a nurse get pregnant here, and they just kind of took care of it, but didn't name it, and it died?
Okay.
They would come here, and marasmus was the cause of it, which meant failure to thrive. That was from not being held. We have a little boy here, Kenneth Root, and he was, his mother got pregnant. They put her in an asylum, the Rochester Asylum. She gave birth. He was almost like a service animal to the inmates, and they loved him. They loved him. Couldn't get, they're holding him, paying attention, blah, blah. Finally, they said, well, we've got to get him out of here. This is not a place for a child. They said the only thing in the records were that the nurses had sewn a white christening gown for him to go. Well, I'm looking through pictures at the hospital. I come across one. There's this little baby in a christening gown. I turn it over, Kenneth Root.
Oh.
Now, he was moved to here, died within 2 months.
Oh.
Because they didn't have the staff to hold and cuddle, and the cause of death was marasmus.
Oh.
So
Drowned?
drowned. They went out, there was a hot day, they took him to the Straight River, which was treacherous. People were saying, we need a public pool, we need a bathhouse, something. And he walked out, fell off they said there was a 10 to 15 foot drop off. They couldn't find his body till later that night. What irritates me is the obituaries were almost accusatory. He wasn't listening, he wasn't doing this.
Oh.
Well, there were two matrons watching 25 boys.
Oh.
Now, come on. You didn't do anything wrong, Joe. You were a 9-year-old boy. I can do that. I'm not afraid. And
Yeah.
that was the only thing he was guilty of. Well, there's a story in one of the books that a child here had written, refers to Joe was, because that's the first stone you see when you come in here.
Okay.
And when they would be pallbearers, it was dark humor, but they had to do something because these kids were frightened. They didn't know death. And they always look over and they say, there's Joe was, he ain't no more.
Oh.
And he said, in hindsight, I see how cruel that was and unfeeling. But dark humor, the children had to cope.
Yeah.
And there was no counseling for them. And,
Right.
you know, two of the children, I get mixed up who I'm talking to, so don't, you know, if I told you this already, one of the diseases was cancrum oris. Did I tell you about that?
What was it?
Cancrum oris. I'd never heard of it. It's called NOMA today. It's a third world country disease. It's from poor hygiene, so they probably came here with it, and they're buried right next to each other, so they died close, so you got to think one infected the other.
Yeah.
Cancrum oris is facial gangrene.
Oh.
Eats the face away. But it's interesting. You get involved with these children, and it's like falling down a rabbit hole. You just keep learning more. and more.
So how do you, after getting drawn into these things, how do you detach? How do you?
I don't. They become my kids.
Yeah.
You know, they really have. I feel protective of them now. I come in here when I'm cleaning, I'm talking to them, you know, telling them about the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, thing, you know, of my era, telling them about their parents, telling little Joe it wasn't his fault, you know, just having conversations with them. You can sense that they're here, you know, and they're children. You know, people say to me, well, don't you get spooked out being in the... No, they're kids. They're kids.
Right.
You know, if they're going to mess with you, it's going to be mischievous. Yeah, yeah. Let's get this
And
over.
not malicious.
No.
There's a history of the Children's Cemetery, and that during the 60-year history of the State Public School for Dependent and Neglected Children, more than 300 children died while under state guardianship, and 198 are buried in this cemetery, unclaimed by family. Some were buried under the cover of darkness because of contagious disease. Few, if any, ever had a flower left on their graves. The average death age was 4 years old, and the causes of death on certificates include diphtheria, measles, drowning, tuberculosis, cancrum oris, which Tim was just telling us about, anemia, ruptured appendix, diarrhea, exhaustion, and several of marasmus, which is defined as wasting and emaciation of an infant for no discoverable cause. Today we would say failure to thrive for lack of love. Children also died from accidents. One boy was killed by an elk, another from a football injury. And then it says that early years the tombstones were put up, but then the state discontinued this practice and the children were simply buried with their case file number etched on the cement slab. And then the rest is about how it came to be what it is today. 1888 through 1942, to the children who rest here, may the love you lacked in life now be your reward in heaven. You are remembered. State Schooler Harvey Ronglier, 1993. So some of them do have the tombstones for when they knew the names. We were just told that the shortest length of time lived here was 1 week. someone came in with a fever and died 1 week after being brought here. 4 years old, 2 years old, 3 years old. So young. 5 years, 2 years, 3 years. These are the ones that they were able to figure the names out for. These must be the first 47. I got the tombstones. And now the rest have got crosses. And you can see the original concrete slab with just a number on it. How sad. $32.99 was Richard's number. Aww.
So, you know, it really is, yeah. Thank your blessings that we have antibiotics today. There's a little boy, excuse me, down there, Richard Lutz, he died of syphilis. Well, it was passed on from the mother. We didn't have the zinc drops. We didn't have the zinc wash upon a child being born. So many of these children could have had long lives if they were, you know, born in the... Again, the rhyme and the reason of the cemetery. He should be the fifth person. If you look at the date, 1889, he should be down here, and you know, Charlie should be first. But in the records, they have a little girl that's buried here, Elvira Hanks. Now, she was a descendant of a slave. They came up from Alabama, and Elvira was indentured to a family in Wabasha, and the family loved her.
Yeah.
And she was taking care of the children. She evidently loved the family. Well, she got some sort of poisoning. She was infected from toe to the top of her head with this skin poisoning, and she died. So they loved her so much, they said, can we bury her with our son who's buried here? And they said, absolutely. Well, the father was, not father, but the indentured father was with the railroad. And you know how they got transferred all over. We cannot find where she's buried down there. I need to take a road trip down there and talk at City Hall or find out exactly, you know, what's what and see if we can find her. But all the reports was she was a lovely little girl. They loved her. And they had her buried right here. And there is none. So many inconsistencies that absolutely drive me nuts.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
But so many children. Arthur Anderson, what's funny is that woman, the granddaughter, I believe, is from Missouri. She's got a daughter that lives in the Brooklands, and they happen to call and say, do you have any information? We just found out we have a boy there. And so the curator says, do we know anything on Arthur Anderson? Well, I said, well, yes, along with his 4 or 5 siblings as well. And so we sent her the information. Some of it was not too complimentary of the family, you know, and I forget the instances exactly, but I don't remember if there was a suicide or abuse or something. I don't want to give anything that you know, would taint that name, but her granddaughter lives here in town, so they came up to the celebration last year, and they've left the flowers and continues to get flowers.
This lady, this stone is for Guy Chatfield, and she's a relative of Guy's, and she's willing to tell us a story about him.
Yes, my uncle, Guy Chatfield, is buried here. He came here in 1927 to Owatonna with his sister. His number was 8165 and hers was 8164. He was 2 years old and Mary was 14. They came here and Mary was able to leave when she was 18 and Guy didn't. As a matter of fact, Guy was a sickly little fella, and through the years he suffered with scarlet fever, mumps, he had measles, and then towards the end of his life, he had gotten a ruptured appendix, and then through that he never recovered, and then at the age of 15 he died.
So young.
So he's still here.
Yeah, so young. Yeah, and she said that the school took good care of him, but conditions were hard back then, and
Yes.
nourishment was one of the factors which probably didn't help him at all.
No.
But yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
People have left toys here for the kids. Very touching. Huh. This is the Memorial Boardwalk. Oh, right here's Harvey's name. There were many, but I was one. Well, this is about Harvey. During my 11 years at the state's public school, these hills were alive with energetic and rambunctious children. Almost every day, children would be placed out. New ones replaced those who left. From all over the state they came, every race, color, and creed. Some stayed a few days or months, others for many years. Each child has their own story to tell. I can only speak for myself. My memories are many of a vast, strange place that took me in from poverty's door, housed, clothed, fed, and educated me. During these years, I fully accepted the state public school as a fulfilling home. As an adult, I came to realize the institutional environment did not provide certain needs a child craves. Although the environment made us physically strong, it left many of us emotionally deficient. Emotional starvation is inseparable from institutional life, and due to its size, individual attention was minimal. Consequently, the children suffered from lack of attention, appreciation, recognition, and love needed for a healthy childhood. For many, it left scars that would last a lifetime. The school did provide me with many playmates and with friendships that have lasted a lifetime. I consider all who were here my brothers and sisters. Our camaraderie lives in the fact we went through it together. In my opinion, the legacy of the state public school for dependent and neglected children is that the environment generated in a large institution is not conducive to raising emotionally healthy children. Let the Orphanage Museum and this outside memorial forever serve as a reminder of that truth and as a remembrance for every child who passed through these doors and their struggle to overcome the scars left by this institution. Yet it was my home, and it gave me an identity that set me apart. I will always feel a real sense of pride in saying I was a state school kid. Harvey Ronglian, Ward of State from 1932 through 1943. What's over here? Buildings and grounds. Originally housed on 160 acres, grew to 329 acres by 1937. Virtually self-sufficient. Children were housed in 16 cottages. Other buildings included a nursery, hospital, school, gymnasium, laundry, and superintendent and employee residences. School had its own power plant, greenhouse, ice house, cemetery, and complete farm operation with cows, horses, swine, and chickens, and a root cellar for the garden's fruits and vegetables. So this is the main building that I first filmed. Served as the nerve center of the orphanage. The center section housed the administration, staff, and visiting room. The left wing was the small boys' living area, and the right wing was the chapel, and the rear area was the dining rooms. Lower level was the kitchen, bakery, barber shop, shoe repair, butcher shop, supplies, and storage. Upper floors were living quarters for the employees. There's a children's cemetery here in the southwest corner of the campus, and over 300 children died while under state guardianship. 198 are buried in the cemetery, unclaimed by family. I've read that the first 47 got tombstones. The next 151s only got a concrete slab with a number. In 1993, a monument and 151 named crosses were erected to remember the forgotten children. And then in 2001, a memory boardwalk was added. So, alrighty. The state orphanage existed from 1886 to 1945. During its 60-year history, 10,635 orphaned, dependent, and neglected children were placed here. By the 1920s, it was the third largest orphanage in the nation. And during the Depression of the 1930s, the orphanage housed 500 children. When the children entered the orphanage, they became wards of the state, and ages ranged from babies to 18. The mission of the orphanage was to provide an interim home for the children before placing them out for adoption. However, adoption rates were low, so many of the children were placed out on indenture contracts until age 18. Some children found good homes, others suffered difficult and humiliating experiences. While the intent was not to institutionalize children, many spent their entire childhood here. Talking about the indentured contracts, my grandparents lived here in Owatonna. They had 4 children in 5 years, and it was hard for Grandma to keep up. And so some of the girls that lived here then lived with my grandma and grandpa, and then helped Grandma with the babies when they were all very little. Grandpa was an ag teacher here at the high school in Owatonna, instrumental in starting FFA across Minnesota, and he also farmed, and he couldn't keep up with it all, and so he had some of the boys come out and help him on the farm. So technically, my grandma and grandpa had indentured servants. They were not paid, but they were provided with room and board, and I can guarantee that they had a good home with my grandma and grandpa, likely very much better than while they were here. To continue reading, siblings may have entered the orphanage together, but later were separated by indenture or adoption, and many were never reunited. By 1945, state legislators realized that such children were better served by immediate placement in foster homes. And so for the next 25 years, the school provided academic and vocational programs for the educable mentally disabled. The building stood empty for 4 years then, and then the city of Owatonna purchased it in 1974 and renamed it West Hills. The 13 original buildings today house city administration offices and other related city facilities, and the farmland became the city's industrial park, and a local realtor purchased the remaining property on State Avenue. Garden Memorial, dedicated July 30th, 1999, is meant to preserve the history, the memory of the children, structures, and grounds of Owatonna Public State School. Initiated by Harvey and Maxine Ronglian, they are grateful to all who contributed to this project. So he wanted this memorial put up for the kids. It was hard times for these kids, living in an institution. Peace to the memory of all these children. How sad.